Alright, I'm back. I had my short little break. I gave Keelio some treats. Also, I scattered some catnip all around her tower. So she's going sneezy, because she does when she's zooting on her catnip. She goes, achoo! Achoo! Punching it. Have a good time. She's satisfied now, hopefully. Also, if you feel like starting a war with your Quebec and French men and friends, whether you call this a chocolatine or a pain chocolat, that's something that people fight over hard. So, all right, water. Drinking sugary soda is probably not the best for my throat. Let's go all the way back up. We'll start this with Ingataxius, the Blue Praetor. Sorry. We hope. Not as busted by default as some of his other versions have been. Like, Progress Tyrant is a fucking menace whenever it got played. But face value, 5/5 for 5, pretty good. It's already rate. Shit, I gotta reorganize my tiers. They're not organized yet. Nope. But Ward 2 gives him some protection. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, mana 3 greater, draw a card. And Jingataxius has the transform ability for 3 and a blue. Exile him, return to the battlefield transformed. Only if you have 7 or more cards in your hand. That's less easy to do than compared to Alesha's or some of the other ones. On his backside, the great Sinithus, he immediately will draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size for as long as you control the great Sinithus. So you'll flip him, immediately have 14 cards in your hand, at least. And then you get a bounce spell, return all non-Phyrexians to their owner's hand. Who's used to. And then you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana costs. And then you exile the Great Sinithus, return to the battlefield as Jingataxius. Okay. So, he's not super oppressive, but just working with this, you start with 7 in the hand. You have to play at least 5 mana. So let's assume 5 turns go by. I mean, you've drawn 4 or 5, which means you've drawn 12 cards out of your 40 card deck. And you need to draw 5 more to at least equal out your hand to get back to full, assuming all you played is lands. Which means you're at 17 cards out of your deck already by the time you have him on the field and you can flip him. Assuming you played nothing, that means turn 10. But assuming you use draw cards, let's say 2 to fill a hand back, that means you're at 19 cards drawn out of the deck. You flip it, you draw another 7, which puts you at 26 cards in your deck. You bounce all the cards in the field, which is another turn and another card down. So brain is bad at math already. 26 to 27 cards drawn. Then you get one more. It's 28 cards drawn. And then you can cast every spell out of your hand. Which is really good, and you should win. But, like 2/3 of your deck by the time the Great Synesthesis flips. So I don't think the backside's as good. It's like a commander thing where you drop 50, 60 cards in one go and you win the game through mill or something. But 5/5 for 5 with ward is solid. Drawing a card sometimes is pretty good too. That's what I'll evaluate his halves on. So, Jingataxius, like a B plus. Let's put him at a B. Not super protected. He doesn't counter a spell automatically like the other one or double your spells. But he's a little protected. You probably got a turn or two before he gets killed. And you get to swing at him a couple times. Just like I was saying, oh, sorry. This was hidden. But to get the Great Synthesis. Here we go, I can speak English. The Great Synthesis to resolve once. You've probably gone through 30 plus cards of your deck. It's not gonna happen, probably. It's way too hard to hit that backside fully. Well, I don't think you're even ever gonna flip him, to be honest. Like, so rare that it barely matters. Unlike Elesh, which is doable at the very least. So I'm gonna put this at like a D+, because it's very backbreaking, but it's like not that easy to do. Like, really hard. So, yeah. That's what my thought is on Jingataxius. Rona, Herald of Invasion. I do like Rona a lot, actually. This is one of the flippy Phyrexian cards that actually has good stuff on the front as well as the back. But she's rare, so yeah. So there's been a lot of Legends Matter cards on Dominaria before. She's a 2 mana, 1 and a blue, for a 1/3 human wizard, which neither of those things particularly matter in this. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap her, which lets you loot, draw, and then discard a card. Or I can't remember what the term is for that, but there's one for discard and draw, which I think is loot, and then draw and discard is something else. But sometimes you get to do that once or twice a turn if you cast another legendary spell. And she's a pretty decent defender. 1/3 is okay for 2-drop. And when you have enough mana, she transforms into Rona, Tolarian Obliterator, which is either 5 mana, so 3 more turns-ish, or 6 if you pay it with the black mana. Tolarian Obliterator is meant to be invoking the Phyrexian Obliterator and the Phyrexian Vindicator, the white and the black for quad black or white mana. 5/5s with abilities. 5/5 tramp, pretty goddamn good. Whenever a source deals damage to Rona, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. That is super good. Although there's a slight difference compared to Obliterator and the Vindicator, where they do that many of the damage that was dealt to them. So he's a little bit nerfed compared to them, but that backside is fucking great. You're still gonna be super happy to have that. 5/5 trample, solid, and you're gonna be paying 5 or 6 for it. That will, at best, get you, or sorry, at worst, get you 1 land or a free spell if you play it, if it doesn't die. But it's semi-protected from damage spells, and that could trigger multiple times if you block a double striker, or they use a spell to damage it and then kill it with a trade. There's a couple ways that this gets more out of it, but not as scary and terrifying as the Obliterators or Vindicator. But her front side is okay. Like, that's a C+ easy, and the back side is like really good. So where is she? Goes. She's a C+. The backside, the Obliterator, I'm gonna call it a B as well. So that's essentially the same sim. 5/5 with an upside. But a really good upside. Zephyr Singer, the blue Convoke card. 4 mana for a 3/4 Flying Vigilance Siren Pirate. Neither of the creature types matter, but Flying Vigilance 3/4 for 4 is already above rate for what that cost is. When he enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on each creature that convoked it. That's really good. Say you've got a 1, a 2, and a 3 before you play this guy. You tap those 3, you pay 1 mana for this guy. Or you pay 3 mana for another 3-drop. Tap all 4 of them, get this guy. You've got a field of 5 flyers. Really good. This is one of the ones I like a lot for the Convoke stuff. But it still has the same downsides as Convoke. So this is hovering on B-, I think, but I'll put it at C+, because it's not busted. C double is an interesting spell. I think it's the first one I've seen that says this spell cannot be copied. It's an instant 4 mana. Choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. So it's a little bit better later in the game. Copy target spell. You may choose targets for the copy and create a creature token that's a copy of target creature. So cast a good removal spell. You can get a copy, but that's very expensive, obviously. Paying like 3 or 4 mana for a removal and then copying that. Also, making your field a little bigger is pretty good. But it doesn't have to be your cards. So your opponent could cast something. Let's say they cast an Alesh Norn. You copy that Alesh Norn. Which is very good. It's like not quite as good as countering the Alesh Norn, but it's pretty good. But it's one thing. Copies cannot flip to the backside. They don't have the backside. They copy the front card. And if they flip, they're just not there. Double check. But cannot transform. There we go. Yeah. But in worst case, best case, you copy your best spell or your best creature, and you copy your best creature that's on the board, and you get a little bit more of a nice block feel. You can do that on attack, or you copy their removal spell, pop one of their things, or copy one of their creatures. Like it's a very versatile spell, and it's a little better than most of these ones. And they can't copy this spell if they also had one, so it's kind of an interesting counter thing. So it can still be countered, but it can't be copied in return, which is really nice. So this is a C+ for me too. Alright, Invasion of Segovia. This is probably my favorite card in the set for flavor. It's another battle, but if you didn't know, the plan of Segovia is a plane of really tiny people and really tiny stuff. So that foot right in the middle there, this foot coming down, is a regular human-sized foot, and these are krakens, giant blue krakens on that plane coming to attack this giant foot that just landed on their ocean. So for 3 mana, 4 life or whatever, toughness, enters the battlefield. Create 2 1/1 blue kraken creature tokens with trample, which is okay. 3 mana for 2 bodies with an upside is all right. The 1/1s aren't going to do too much on their own, but it's not bad. You get convoke creatures, which is ideally where these kind of things go into. And then you get the backside, if you can flip it. Non-creature spells that you control have Convoke. It's the Convoke enabler for your deck. And at the beginning of your end step, untap up to 4 creatures. So you get those creatures that you used for Convoke, now untap. So your Convoke spells don't leave you vulnerable after, which is really good. So, and it's a big 3/3 serpent. It's a legendary one too, which is interesting. So this is something I didn't mention with the other stuff. Since you're casting the other side countered, even though you're not paying any mana for it. Gotta watch out for that. But I really like that this gives you 2 2/2s with trample, or sorry, 2 1/1s with trample, and then you get a 3/3 on the other side that lets you untap a bunch of your stuff. Ooh, Cleo, huh? You mean a brat? But this is the Convoke King card, basically. You really want to get that if you're in the Convoke deck. One of the better, not payoffs, but big enablers. I keep hearing her maybe digging in my garbage, so I'm just like cautious. But I really like the flavor of this, so it's a C+ for me. Oh, being fair, it's a C. You're paying 3 for 2 small bodies. But the backside is pretty good. Plus. Right. I did not know what Strixhaven's plane name was. I don't think they ever said it. It's just Arcavios. Invasion of Arcavios for 5 mana and 7 life on the battle. When Invasion of Arcavios enters the battlefield, search your library, graveyard, and or outside the game for an instant or sorcery card you own. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle your library this way. You search your library this way, shuffle. There you go. And the back side of it, kill 7 damage off of it. Invocation of the Founders, enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you may copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. I already mentioned how narrow non-creature spell matters things are. And this is even more narrow because it's only instant or sorcery cards you own. But if you're playing this for whatever reason, you could have your sideboard full of those spicy instant sorceries. Whether it's a removal, tap down a bunch of creatures, give stun tokens to these things, take control of your opponent's creatures, whatever the spicy card is, you can pull this from your sideboard, because that's what outside the game means in rules terms. Sideboard, in standard 15 cards. In sealed, it's whatever cards you didn't put in your deck, so 30, 40 cards. But you still have to cast it. It doesn't make it cast for free. And the backside doesn't do that either, so you still have to be able to pay the mana for it. It doesn't give you tokens or treasures or anything like that. So the front side of this is like a D. I think it's very narrow. And there is going to be a Spell Slinger's deck for sure. That's how the blue-red deck always kind of runs. But 5 mana is a lot, and 7 life is a lot to flip. You could even be getting an instant sorcery that says transform your battle or defeat your battle and flip it. So, but it's a lot of mana to pay for 2 spells to get the backside. So the backside is strong, but instant and sorcery spells from your hand specifically means you can't cast it from the graveyard. You got to add it back to your hand or cast it again. This is a D+. It's a little better than the front side, but it's not that good because you might not have that many spells to cast. Alright, the Sharknado returns. 3 mana for a 2/2 flying Phyrexian Shark. 2/4 flying Phyrexian Shark. Alright, so the stat line is above. So it's a C+, just from the stats already. Flying gives it a little bit more evasion. I'd still call that like a high C+, low B-. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, incubate, where X is that spell's mana value. That was really good. The shark is strong. It's a really good incubate enabler. If you pull this, you go into the incubate deck and you snap up all those other incubate matters cards, or artifact matters cards, or Phyrexian matters cards, or the non-creature deck. But let's say you're playing a spell or non-creature spell deck heavy, so 10 tops, and maybe you get to cast 5 or 6, but you have to have the shark on the field to get any value out of it. So 2/4 is better because he survives a lot of the common damage spells, and the flying is nice for evasion. You get to punch in for it. I still rate this guy like a B at minimum. Worst case, he's a B-. Best case, he's like an A because you're just ping a thing, shuffle cards back from your graveyard, take cards from your outside your library, playing big stuff, making big 5/5 incubate tokens and stuff. But realistically, he's like a B. 2/4 flyer is great, good blocks, still get some damage through in the air, and it survives a lot more than a lot of these creatures. And this guy, he's a B. I don't like this card. Not great. Transcendent Message, quad blue, and X. I know my buddy will love this in Commander because he plays a lot of dumb stuff that'll just eat this up. Not as good as like Treasure Cruise or anything like that, and I think that's why they were trying to fix this, where it's like 2 blue and like 6, and then you delve, where you exile cards from your graveyard to draw 4 cards or search your top 6 for 3 or 4 cards or whatever. Treasure Cruise is fantastic and way too good. All right, Treasure Cruise was the common one. Treasure Cruise. Dig Through Time. In the Commander deck? Ooh, interesting. So Dig Through Time is the rare one. 2 and 6 instant delve. Look at the top 7 cards, put 2 of them in your hand, the rest in the bottom of your library. So draw 2, but you dig through 7 for 2 is really good. Because with delve, you cast it for the cheap cost. Treasure Cruise was the fucked up one. MTG, not One Piece, but because it was common and it cost 1 to draw 3 cards, and people did that so often. Not an instant, but 1 to draw 3 is totally fine. People pitch their graveyard for that easy. This is not that. It's just not good. Yeah. In the worst case scenario, you paid 4 blue for nothing. If you convoked a bunch of stuff, like you really have the Convoke Matters deck, maybe you're getting some stuff out of it. Maybe you got all the sick pulls and you played this into your Chrome Host Shark to get this out of your sideboard, and you got the Convoke Untap guy out to convoke your whole board and untap 4 of them and draw 6 cards. But that's just not happening. Like, this kind of sucks on its own. I don't like paying 5 for 1 or 7 for 3 cards. Like, that's not a rate I'm happy to pay. This is like a D. Fairy Mastermind, it's that guy, Yuta Takahashi, World Champion 27. I don't know who he was, and this was like the first card spoiled out of the set. It's like, looks like one of those League of Legends things. And I was like, alright. But it's a good card. 2 mana, 2/1, flash flying. Already, that's good. Whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw a card. The nice thing with this is you see them play a draw spell, activating this ability to get a draw card. You flash this in before it resolves, you get to draw another card. And then you can also force them to draw a second card, which means you get 2 cards, which is really good. So it's a really good little card. The body's not that great, but the effects are amazing. So, like a 2/1 and flying with flash is at least C+. But the ability on him is very strong, so I will put him at C+, because he's not actually super relevant to the battle, but realistically he slides up to B+, B area in like constructed and stuff, so C+. Complete the circuit. This guy in the story turned into a planeswalker, maybe? He just exploded in light and disappeared. Little elephant student from not Harry Potter. Played as 5 mana and a blue, 6 for an instant convoke spell. You may cast sorcery spells this turn as though they had flash. You next cast an instant or sorcery spell. Copy that spell twice. You may choose new targets for the copy. That's really fucking rough. But the way I think this will get played in a lot of people who steal it is they're in like a blue-black or a blue-white deck. And you got a cheap 1 or 2 mana removal. And they move to combat. You assign your blockers. You tap all 3 or 4 of your blockers. You pay 2 for this. And you cast one of those simple 2 mana destroy target creature that's tapped spells. That's a sorcery, but you get 3 of them and you blow out the other side of the board. That's like the best case for this, but this sucks on its own. If you get this, you're not happy. This is very much a C- or a D+. Because there's a very good use case for it, but you gotta be careful, and I don't like all the really spicy cards for the like non-creature spell deck being rare and above. It means maybe you get one of these, and you get one of the non-creature spell things. It's a little rough, so where is that? D+. Invasion of Kamigawa. Neo Tokyo / Old Samurai Japan plane. So 4 mana for a 4 life battle. When Invasion of Kamigawa enters the battlefield, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. 4 mana for that effect is not great at like sorcery speed. But it's also not bad. You're removing a blocker that could attack this. And realistically, at 4 mana, you almost certainly transform this the turn you play it. Say you got a 2 mana, 2/2, and another 2 mana, 2/2 on like turn 3 or something. Turn 4 rolls around, they've got 1 big blocker or 2. You let them swing in, you just take the 3. You tap down their only blocker or their big guy that they left up, and it stays tapped for a full 2 turns. Like, not 2 turns. This turn, and then the turn after that is when it untaps. But that lets you usually get a swing on this, and then you get this side. Rooftop Saboteurs, Moonfolk Ninjas. Neither of those types matter, but a 2/3 flyer is already really good. Rooftop Saboteurs deals combat damage to a player or battle, draw a card. So this lets you trigger more battles easily, and you're happy with that. It's weird because I think this is overcosted for both the halves, but they're both really doable compared to some of the other stupid ones. So I rate this higher than normal. This is a C. And then the backside, the Rooftop Saboteurs is like a C+. Like 2/3 for 4 flying is okay, not great, but you also get the stun ability and sometimes drawing a card out of it. That's good. Invasion of Vryn. I really like this card because I really like Vryn, but it's already not that good. Pay 4 for a 4-mana life thing to draw 3 and discard a card. That's not bad. That's totally fine and playable. And then the backside is an artifact. You pay 1 and tap it. Copy target spell you control. That side is really good. But I don't know. This doesn't help you pop this side the way that this one does. But you're drawing cards. Draw 3, discard 1 is okay. Like, it's not bad. That's a D+ for the front side, but very playable. Copy spell you control. I like that it's a spell and not non-creature spell, because you can copy a creature if you really want to, if you need to fill your board back out. This one's a C+, because that's very cheap, very easy to do, and you're totally fine doing it. I can't remember the name of this card, but I know what it does. 3 and a blue, instant, Convoke, which is okay. This is one of the better Convoke cards. Abominable Sleep. Tap 2 creatures, put a stun counter on one of them, and then put another stun counter on one of them. So the way this works when you do it is if it goes to your opponent's turn, he's got 2 big creatures, you got like 2 little ones and 2 mana open. You can tap down both of his creatures, and you can make one of them sleep for another 3 turns, essentially, or both of them for another 1 turn, which is okay. So they would be tapped down for this turn, you get back to yours, you get a free swing, unless they play another creature. Goes back to their turn, they take the stun counter off, they're still tapped down for another cycle, you swing again, and then they get to go back and untap. Or one of them, probably the scariest one of them, stays tapped down for another turn cycle, which is pretty okay. This is like one of the really good usable Invoke spells. Okay, here's the bad Incubate thing. It's like the good one right beside it, but this is the bad one. Paying 5 mana for an Incubate 4, which already sucks. That's below rate, because you don't get Vigilance or whatever. Then you have to pay 2 more to flip it and trigger its ability. Whenever a permanent you control transforms, or a permanent enters the battlefield under your control transformed, you may draw a card. Do this only once each turn. Holy shit. So you paid 7 mana for a 4/4 and 1 card. Not good. It's expensive, so it takes a while to get to actually flipping your guy. But this one, it's 3 mana for a 4/4 that has Vigilance that you paid 2 for after is okay. Paying 5 and then getting a 4/4 the next turn is like not what you want to do most of the time. They'll probably still play it if you're in that kind of Incubate deck, but you shouldn't really like it. Right, this one is a callback to like Pyroblast kind of stuff. Change the equation. 2, instant, choose 1. Counter target spell with 2 mana or less. Mana value 2 or less. Counter target red or green spell with 6 value or less. So if you're in blue, you play it most of the time. He counters anything, creature, non-creature stuff. if it's little, which is not really where you want to play your counter spells most of the time. But if you're playing red or green, you side this in for sure, and you counter their best creature under 6 mana, and you're happy for it, or their best removal spell or battle or whatever. The bottom half is C+, the front half, bottom half is C+, this top part is C. So I will put it at a C+ because of versatility, but I think it's probably a sideboard card in most games, because if you draw this after turn 3, it does nothing for you, right? So Astral Wingspan. Or and a blue enchantment or a convoke. Giant creature. When this enters the battlefield, draw a card, and creature gets +2/+2 in flank. This is fucking not it. But you're still gonna play it sometimes, because sometimes you just need a way to get your damage through. I think it's a D+. I don't like convoking all my creatures down to play an expensive spell and get a very minimal upside out of it. Like, I don't know if it's going to show up in the suggested here. But Cartouche of Knowledge is fucking sick. This card mattered in the set because of cartouches, so you get your cartouches back, or you trigger stuff when you play a cartouche. Auras matter a little bit, but you get the same effect and it's 2, and like +1/+1 flying, losing 1 power off of it, but you paid 3 less. You could pay 2 of these on 2 different creatures and you didn't lose any blockers. Like, this is just better. It's like always better. This is even better too. Draw 2, discard 1 is like actually decent, because you like putting stuff in the bin if you know what you're doing. This is not good. But sometimes you need something to get the board stall broken, so. Oracle of Tragedy, human wizard, but she looks like a puppet or something. I don't know. 2 mana, human wizard doesn't matter, 1/3. When Oracle of Tragedy enters the battlefield or dies, so you get 2 triggers. Draw a card and discard a card. Okay. Shuffle up to 4 target cards, mana 3 or greater from your graveyard into your library. So, I like both halves of this, because the way I think you're going to play it a lot of the time is draw a card. When you play this as your 2-drop, and you're going to see a 7-drop pop up, and you're going to be like, fuck that, and you throw it in the graveyard. And then when it does die, and it's a pretty good defensive line, eventually you can shuffle back those expensive cards that you either cast since this came out, or that big card you pitched early, and you get it back later. This is like a C+. This is a good little guy. Good little dude. Wherever she is. There you go. C+. Xerox Strobe Knight. So this is another plane we don't really know very well, but they're like, I don't know, extra dimensional dudes. They got like ice skates and they skate through the mirror dimension or something. It's weird. But 3 mana, 2/2, Vigilance, human knight. That's already C for me. Flying, that's immediately a C+. Then tap it to create a 2/2 white and blue knight with token with Vigilance. Activate only if you cast 2 or more spells this turn. This thing is so close to being like a B- for me, because like human doesn't matter. Knight, very good. Flying Vigilance, very good. And then can still cast its effect. Oh, fits the Convoke deck, fits the Knight deck, fits the token deck, and just play around it a little bit. Play your 1 mana dude, then play a 2 mana dude. Draw a card, cast a card. Do what you need to make use of it, but that's a very good card. I'll call it a B-. Yeah. And since I don't have a B-, it's getting shoved up into B tier. Alright. The bad but better transforming guys. Skyclave Aerialist. 2 mana, 2/1 flyer. That's already a C. Pay 4 and 2 life or a green. And you get Skyclave Invader. Turned his poor owl into a mech owl. Flying, when this creature transforms into Skyclave Invader, look at the top card of your library. If it's not card, you can put it on the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. 2/4 flyer. Front side is a C. Like a straight up good card. Back side, I don't like paying 5 for a 2/4 that does one thing once. But the stat line's not bad, so like at best it's a C+. If it had something kind of repeatable or more interesting like the Sky Shark, it would be automatically up into the B there. But the one thing I like about these cards, even though the front side often kind of sucks, is that they last the rest of the game. They are not bad. Like having a mana sink a couple turns later when you're just drawing lands or something is very valuable. Captive Weird. This front side is not great, but a 1/3 for 1 is okay. Call that a C. Defender, doesn't matter, it's gonna defend. That's what you do with that kind of card. Flip it for 3. The curve is okay, especially if you're paying 2 life. When this creature transforms to complete a conjure, exile top card of your library until the next turn, you may play that card. That's a great card. I don't know what you call that, impulse draw or something, but 3/3 for 3. So great. This thing's probably getting outclassed by turn 3 or 4 when you decide to flip it. I'd flip this on turn 3 if I didn't have a turn 3 play. And then turn 4 you get an extra card to play from. This side is C+, just because of the impulse draw. Weird, but it's good. I love weirds. Weirds are good cards. Omen Hawker. I think he kind of sucks. 1 mana for a 1/1 is, I mean, it's at rate, but it's like a D by default because he doesn't have flying or vigilance or anything. Add a colorless and a blue and only to activate abilities. He's the guy to enable your flicker flippers and your weird artifacts and stuff, but I don't think that's it. Like, I understand they made him an uncommon because you don't want fucking 18 of these flying around a draft or something, but it's D+. Kind of usable in the right decks, and that's where all these cards go for me. These are nearly unusable, but nothing's been F tier yet, which I'm okay with. Artistic Refusal, 6 mana instant with Convoke. Counter target spell. You're choosing one or both, sorry. Draw 2 and discard card. Draw 2 and discard a card for 6 is shit. Counter spell for 6 is shit, but a little bit better. Convoking it, not the worst. Like, if you're in a board stall and they go to cast a creature and you tap your board in main phase 2, counter that creature and draw 2 and discard card, you're getting in a good spot for this. It's a lot though. It's a lot. 6 mana is like not easy to get to, and that means like 4 creatures and then you do it for 2, or 3 creatures for 3. That's not so bad, but like it's not as good, but it is versatile, so it's going to be cancel but better, and cancel would be D+, so I'll put this in a D, or sorry, C. Where is it? Am I blind? Oh, there it is. Yeah, C. Simulate Essence, 2 mana instant. Counter target creature or battle spell unless its controller pays 4. If they do, you incubate 2. This one's an interesting one because incubate 2 is not worth them getting a good spell that you wanted to counter. But if you're playing really good tempo and you're playing a really smart game of Magic, you're kind of stopping them from playing other stuff. So if they go into turn 6, let's say, where this is viable to get cast or something, and they drop a 2/2 in main phase 2, you pop this, they decide to pay 4 for it, you've stopped them from doing anything additional, you get a 2/2 that you can flip on your turn. Sometimes you're going to stop a battle that you let them hit, flips to the other side, and they may not have the mana to pay for this when you counter the thing that they cast on the backside. That's probably the better space for this. Like a Spell Pierce, but not a Spell Pierce, but the other one. I can't remember the name of it. Let's see if it says it. Nope, doesn't say. But there's a couple cards that are like, counter target spell, unless they pay lots. And it's like, okay, so it's most of the time it's a counter spell. It's only creatures or battles, which is kind of narrow, so it's like C-. You don't want the incubate side of that. You shouldn't want that. But sometimes you'll get it and you'll be slightly less unhappy about it. Disturbing Conversion. 2 mana, enchantment aura, flash, enchant creature. When disturbing aura enters the battlefield, each player mills 2 cards. The enchanted creature gets -X, -O, where X is the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. So this is a combat trick where you kill the thing that would normally have traded with you, is ideally how it goes. Or they have something stupid like Yargle out, and it's 8-9 turns in the game, and you want to turn their fucking 16-5 into like an 8-5. But D+, I don't like that it doesn't kill the thing or tap it down or turn it into a 0/2. But you'll make a use for it, and there are few times when you'll want that aura for other reasons. Or that flashing and a non-creature spell will get you a buff. As far as Dispersal, 3 mana, instant. They'll cost 2 less if it targets an attacking creature. Turn target creature to its owner's hand and surveil 2. Time walk those fuckers for 1 and get a surveil. This is really good. This is like the best for cheap blue removal, essentially. They get a 6/6, they can't take that turn, they go right to their next turn. They go on for the big swing and you pop it back in their hand for 1, you get to fix and get an answer or something. Counterspell, maybe one of those guys. But this is a C+ for me. There it is. You can do it to your own attacking creature if they combat trick the hell out of theirs and you're going to lose it. You want to keep it. But that's, not as ideal, but it works. I don't know if they put there, but like unsummon and cards like that are like really good. Really good and limited, I should say. They suck everywhere else. But tempo is strong and limited, where you can pop their only creature back to their hand, swing another for 4. They play it, you pop it again, swing it. Oh, they're time walking themselves. Ugh. Expedition Lookout, 2 mana. Merfolk Rogue, that don't matter. 2/3. Pretty good for 2. Defender kind of dulls it down a little bit. As long as the opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, Expedition Lookout can attack as though it didn't have Defender and can't be blocked. Makes it a little better. It's like a C+ and a half, I guess, or like C.5 to plus. I'll put it in C+. It's better than a 2/2 for 2 by a little bit. Defender kind of sucks when you play it on turn 2, but if you get there, you get there, and then you have a good steady source of damage. Eyes of Gitaxias. 3 mana, sorcery, incubate 3, draw a card. You're paying 5 mana for a 3/3 and a draw card. It's not good. But if you're in the incubate deck, you might want more instances of incubate. Or you want to cast a non-creature spell that draws you a card and you don't really care about the other half. It's like a D plus though. Furtive Analysis. 3 mana human wizard analyst. Sorry, not analyst. Analysis. For a 1/4. This is the Convoke medium expensive enabler. It's not great, but 3 mana for a 1/4 with vigilance is not a good rate. Not a bad rate. Not a bad body, I should say, but it's a wall. Sometimes you get to swing with this for 1. Sometimes you get to draw a card with it. And then discard a card, which is okay. But sometimes you get to convoke it too, which is probably where the vigilance is going to be a little more relevant. But it's a 1/4, so you're not swinging with it too often anyways. Like, yeah, it's D+, like D-, D+. Alright, Preening Champion. Bird Knight. 3 mana, 2/2, flying. Already a C+. Preening Champion enters the battlefield. Create a 2/2 blue and red elemental creature token. There are a very few extra bodies matter things, but this is like a 3/3 flyer, except 1 power doesn't fly, which is less good, but helps your convoke stuff, helps the knights, helps the flying, good evasion. I will call it a C+. Is it 3/2, or sorry, 3 mana for 2/2 with vigilance? It'd still be like just a half C+ there, but good. Saiba Cryptomancer. 2 mana, 0/1. Moonfolk Ninja. The abilities don't matter. Flash. Backup plus 1/1 counter. And hexproof. So this most times is not going to be a creature. You're playing this as 2 mana, give a creature +1 and +1 and hexproof, which is totally fine. Like that's not a bad spell that also gives you a body that you block or turn into a convoke thing. So treating it as that save spell, it's going to be a C. Treating it as the body, it's like a D- because it doesn't have any power at all. But flash, give a thing hexproof and buff it, and then sometimes have a chump blocker or a convoke enabler is okay. Stasis Field, a good one. 2 mana, enchant creature. Enchant creature has base power, toughness 0/2, defender, and loses all other abilities. Fantastic. Stop the biggest thing they have and then kill it when they throw it under the bus, basically. This is going to be like the blue staple removal in limited for sure. C+. Tidal Terror. 6 mana, 4 blue. Octopus, type doesn't matter. 5/6. Pretty good for 6. Tidal Terror attacks. You may tap 2 other untapped creatures you control. If you do, Tidal Terror can't be blocked. And Island Cycling. The Island Cycling is the thing that puts this over the top for me. Tapping 2 of your things down to get through for 5 damage will win games. People are going to be stuck at it, especially if you hold up like 2 mana to do this and give it hexproof or something. This thing is B-, B tier. Like, if you get it early, you cycle it. Don't wait fucking 5 turns to cast it. But if you get it and you throw it on the field, it's going to be the thing you try to win the game with. And totally happy with it. But don't take like 4. You take 2, maybe. You cycle 1 of them most of the time. Zalfirin's Shapecraft. He's the avatar. 2 mana, instant, 4/3. Turn target creature has base power, toughness 4/3 till end of turn, and draw a card. These effects normally don't give you a draw card. They're normally 2 mana. Sometimes it's like a 3/3 dragon or 4/4 dragon, a 4/4 whatever, until end of turn. They have their place. They're essentially like a combat trick. They work better with +1/+1 counters than creatures that are already big. Sometimes you're turning this thing into a 4/3 and you're trading into it. But I like this better than the other ones. It's like a C+ for me too. Like, there's enough creatures that get through sneakily that this is going to be real damage. It's going to effectively be like a +3/+3 or a +2/+1 in some cases, and you draw a card for 2 is totally fine. Not quite a cantrip, but it's pretty close. Alright. Thunderhead Squadron, 6 mana, 5 and a blue, 3/4 flying convoke. That fucking sucks. It's not a good rate for that. The knight matters, the convoke may matter. Flying is good. If you're in a board stall, you'll be happy to have this because it's defensive enough to survive whatever they swing with after you tap down 2 or 3 of your creatures to cast it for turn 4 or something. It's a C- for me, but I should be very strongly wording, don't sleep on flyers. If you don't have reach, you need removal. People will throw out like 3 of these and they'll win because you don't have enough flyers to trade or block them successfully. Critical Knight, it's got a weird sword from Ravnica, I think. 4 mana, 3 and a blue human knight. Knights matter again, 3/4. This is already better. Enters the battlefield, tap target creature and controls. Put a stun counter on if you control another knight. This thing is fucking all-star. This is going to be your curve mid-topper where you tap down their 5/5 or 6/6 rare that they got stupidly for 3 mana or something like that, and you beat their face in with your other knights. But the stun counter really tips that up. There's normally like a creature, like a cat, 3 mana, flash it in. It's a 3/2. It taps their creature down for a turn, and it doesn't untap the next untap step, which is a stun counter. Now, but this is okay. Like, it doesn't have flash, but a 3/4 knight for 4 is okay. That has a thing matters if you have another knight, and can lock a creature down for 2 turns is pretty good. Oculus Whelp, Phyrexian Dragon. Dragon doesn't really matter. Phyrexian does. Blue is a little weird for dragons. 3 mana and a blue for a 3/2 flyer. As long as you control it, transform permanent. Oculus Whelp has, when Whelp dies, draw a card. Okay, it's probably gonna die because it's a 3/2 for 4, which is weird. But flying still makes this at least a C to me. The secondary effect may not even matter. It's just going to be a slightly expensive flyer that you're going to be aggressive with. Halo Charge Scab, 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 4/4 zombie. When Halo Charge Scab enters the battlefield, each player mills 2 cards. Then you put an instant sorcerer or battle card from your graveyard on top of your library. This one's pretty good. It's definitely nudging into C+ for me. I don't like having to wait till this long to play the card, but you probably had a couple instant sorceries or a battle card or 2 in the graveyard, and if you didn't, you might get one off the mill, and then you get to pick the best one and put it on top. Pretty good. Really happy to play it. Zombie barely matters again. Meeting of Minds. 3 and a blue for an instant, convoke, draw 2 cards. This is, what the fuck's it called? Let's see if it says. It doesn't say it. Divination? Yeah, it's divination basically. Because most of the time you're gonna convoke for 1, 2 maybe. If you do it for 2, it's better divination. If you do it for 1, it's just divination. It's a C. But sometimes you need 1 or 2 of these in your deck to just draw cards, or on a board stall, or where your opponent doesn't quite feel confident in swinging, you tap down your bodies and get some cards. It's good stuff. Doesn't do anything special enough for me to push it up past C, but Ordine dello Specchio, which is something ordained knight. Order of the Mirror. There we go. Okay. 2 mana, 1 in a blue for a 2/1. Vanilla Knight, which is okay. Cavalier. I thought that was Soldier, but okay. I want to see a zoomed in high res version of that art where there's like a little grandma face on there. But do 1 knight for 2 is in the knight deck. You're happy to play it, and then for 3 or 4, you get your 3/3 knight. That when it comes blocked by a creature gets -1/-1, so it trades up into 4/4. This is fucking gold for the knight deck. You're happy to play it on 2. Sometimes you just flip it immediately if you don't have a 3-drop, and you're happy to fucking swing it with that. It's good stuff. Good stuff. That is a C. This is a C+. Outright kill 1/1s and sometimes trade up on a 4/4. Nice, and it works on multiple creatures too. This is always such a good effect. It's always great. Temporal Cleansing. 4 mana, sorcery, 3 in a blue. Convoke owner of target non-land permanent, puts it in their library second from the top or on the bottom. Use your time walk. They play 6/6. Comes back to your turn. I don't like sorcery convoke. If it was an instant, it'd be like a B for me. Very good. But sorcery kind of sucks unless you have the flash guy. Or that copy your next spell that you convoked for and copy it 3 times or whatever. Like, this is still good. It's like a C+ area card. Like, you're popping their biggest thing, and they're either going to get it in 3 turns from now, or 2 turns from now. 2? 1, 2, no, 3 turns from now. Or they don't care enough and they throw it to the bottom and search for a better answer. Negate. It's a D+. Sometimes you need it, but again, they're only playing like 1/5 of their deck, maybe, as non-creature spells. It's okay. Moment of Truth. Impulse cards are always pretty good. Top 3 cards, put 1 in your hand, 1 in your graveyard, 1 in the bottom. This is like the best of all 3 of those type of things, so I will give this a C+. One thing I didn't do, I wanted to sort this into and compare them all after, but white, I think it's pretty good. There's a couple heavy bombs in there, and it's got a good concentration of B and C+ cards, and it's a good, like, nice bell curve of, like, you see these ones, you don't really pick it. Sometimes you need one of these to fit your deck. These are all happy to be used, and these are all above rate, and these are pretty good. Blue is weird. I don't really think there's any bombs that are straight up bombs on the front side here. There's no 5/5 that can't be blocked unconditionally or something like that. There's no coma that replicates every turn. There's no crazy elemental knight that brainstorms and is a 5/5 flyer for cheap. Like, nothing super insane in blue, but there's a lot of C+ stuff for the knights and the very specific cards like the incubate or the non-creature card or this copy spell thing. There's a bunch of copy stuff and copy your opponent's stuff things. But they also have more C's, D's, and D+ than white does. So I will consider blue a supplementary color, but it has some key cards. So save this. Blue. They have a description? I don't care. All right. I will take another very short break. And then I will restart this on black. And yes, I'm doing this because I'm a little lazy and I don't want to do too much editing when I send this stuff back to YouTube for later. So I'll be right back in a minute or two. See you guys in a little bit.